Yeah, yeah. Well, and it's also because it's full of so many. You put one in yourself. I know Alan's scripts pretty good, but there's a lot of stuff that you're in for visually and sort of extra.
Yeah, I'm trying to fit stuff in. Yeah,
quite a lot in the new book. There's the things you've got here, which are great fun. I'm sure a lot we've missed, and we'll get to discover. That's one thing I think I've discussed with a few people about this, because this is probably. I mean, we should actually go through in order here, because before we get to the latest question, we've got time for this. But okay, so you did it initially, of course, as a serialized comic book, and then collected it into a book. And the first two series, this is volume 2, of course, were pretty much grounded in a lot of the familiar territory of the Victorian era and the stories we know, whether it's Jekyll and Hyde, etc., Invisible Man, these kind of things. But doing wonderful sort of spins on it. And I think, for me, the best thing about what you and I have done is that you've made this absolutely unadaptable into cinema, into film. I think after the travesty, I went on my birthday as a treat to go and see that bloody LXG film. How would it me?
I'll give you your
I
money
want
back.
that to see the Spirit film. I want on my deathbed on those hours back, please, because it was a terrible experience. But it is good because, in a sense, almost taking away what drives some of your work. It seems to be a recurring motif here. Is a kind of like this is an outlet, whether it's Nemesis or martial law, perhaps more than for you. There are kind of like you're exercising something out through these books, aren't you? You're kind of venting.
Venting, yes. It's channeling. It's my kind of therapy.
And that's exactly what I think what makes it so powerful. Yeah, and then some of the scenes in the LXG, the whole thing with the Invisible Man being killed, not to give it away. You'll still be shocked if you haven't read it, but I'm sure you will have. But it's an amazing scene, isn't it? It's just extraordinary.
I remember when I got the script for that. It was closely followed by a phone call from Scott Dombier, the editor. And he said, "Have you seen the script?" I said, "Yeah, it's fantastic." He said, I knew what he was going to bring up. He said, "The scene with the Invisible Man." I'm like, "Oh yeah." He said, "Will you be careful?" And I said, "Well, what do you mean?" And he said, "Well, just be careful. We're a bit worried." And I said, "But he's invisible." And he's still disturbing. And it is a disturbing. Actually, what disturbs me about it, looking back at it, is how polite Edward Hyde is. He's kind of he's very charming. He's very charming, and he starts breaking limbs and doing terrible things. And then Alan's scene of the kind of daguerreotype blood appearing is fantastic. But when I visited the movie set in Prague, and the cast all refer to those scenes as they'd rather be shooting that. And Peter Wilson, who played Mina, said she'd love to have done the scene with a bucket of paint spraying over the Invisible Man, which actually is a movie scene. It would make a great movie scene. But a movie didn't. It almost went out of its way to ignore what we did. There was virtually nothing, barely a trace.
I'm assuming that James Robinson was involved. I've always wondered about that, because James, I think
he should know better, shouldn't he? As a comic man.
Well, he's a comic man. That's actually. I mean, I've published his London Start book, and he's a very talented writer doing this stuff now. So what? Yeah. But it is the whole Hollywood machine, I think.
It became a Sean Connery vehicle.
Well, that was part of it, wasn't it? As a star vehicle, yeah. Where Alan Caldwell suddenly is this kind of, basically strapping and doesn't get anything wrong with him. Basically, he's not at all enfeebled.
In the film, if you notice in the credits and in the graveyard scene, the main graveyards, his name is misspelled, and I pointed it out to them, and they said, "Well, we know that it was an accident." Sean Connery kept, when he introduced himself, his eye caught him, he kept calling himself Quatermass. And they kept shooting and saying, and so they had to put in his script a different spelling to kind of remind him his name meant.
Right, you just had a
so you get that. And then he had a problem with the scene in the film where the Invisible Man's in his cabin on an Nautilus. And he said, "Oh, Invisible Man, I'm not sure I like that scene." I said, "Why?" He said, "Well, there's a naked man in a room with me." And I said, "He's an invisible man. No one sees he's a naked man, but he's naked, isn't he?" And they went, "Well, yeah, I guess so. He's naked, yeah." But he did it grudgingly. But that's the kind of
some life fronts on or something.
Yes. I could, wouldn't it? But no, it's an old film. When it's driven by a star like that, and apparently he turned down The Matrix.
Sean Connery talking.
Yeah, Sean Connery.
Oh, right.
He turned that down. Playing the Lawrence Fishburne part. He turned out because he didn't understand it. He didn't understand the script. Then he turned down Lord of the Rings because I guess he didn't want to spend 5 years in New Zealand, which he'd been perfect for as Gandalf. I could see see why, and I think he'd been attached to it in the past, but he turned that down. That was obviously a huge hit.
So he's looking for a huge hit.
So he took this because he didn't understand it, but because he didn't understand the wretched thing, there's something great would come out of it.
Right.
And
he imposed so much on it and managed to ruin it.
I mean, of course, in Hollywood, when you've got this woman, Mina, now her role doesn't make any sense to them. Who is she? She's not actually organising the team anymore. And she can't just be a powerful Victorian woman who controls these men. They couldn't fathom that. So she has to be a vampire, with the Dracula background and all that. So you end up with those weird vampire. I mean, the whole thing was just weird.
And then they threw in Tom Sawyer, I think, didn't they?
Yeah. Dorian Gray.
Uncle Tom Sawyer and everybody.
Yes.
Well, the great thing is that I gather that you, I won't go through all of it, but I gather the main thing is that you and Alan were able to say no to a sequel.
No, that's not true.
Is that not true?
That's not true.
Oh, I thought there was a sequel being mooted.
There is.
There is or there was?
Well, it was.
Okay.
It was. I think other people are talking about doing it properly.
Okay.
Doing it again, because now you can do a new Hulk film.
Well, yeah.
Within 5 years of a bad Hulk.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess enough people have forgotten about it.
You've got to save the franchise. Forgetting it, just if it's ruined by a film, potentially. Of course, it isn't. Is it? I mean, a bad film has actually still brought people to LSG, to the comic, to the graphic novel.
The best reviews we ever got when that film came out.
Yeah.
People would say how much I like the book in film reviews,
yes.
and it drove the producers nuts.
Yes. And the same thing is always happened with The Watchmen, hasn't it?
Absolutely,
When people,
of course,
it has driven them to read the graphic novel. That's much better.
Yes, absolutely.
So the story at this stage, I mean, these early volumes, it's all quite self-contained, and they're very much sort of in the Victorian era. And of course, Black Dossier is the book that suddenly kind of exploded everything. I think most of us, it was kind of like, okay, where are we now, kind of thing. And it was that. How did that come about? Discussing it. Have you always had this? Was there always in the back of both you and Alan this kind of idea of where the series could go if it was going to continue?
A little bit. Well, what happened? Originally, it was going to be 2 series, and originally even 12 issues. But I said, there's no way I can do 12. You still be waiting for it, frankly. So we did the 2 stories over 2 series, but it's really one more continuous piece, isn't it? But Alan was going to take a break after the second one, and he rang me up and he said, "Oh, you've got something else you can do." And I said, "Yeah, I'll go and sign on." I was going to do martial law or something, but he said he felt so sorry for my pitiful face pressed against the job seeker's window. But he rang me up and said, "Do you fancy doing a source book for Lee?" And I said, "But they're usually always crap, aren't they? Well, I knew it wouldn't be crap value." He said, "Then we'll do a 48-page source book, and we'll have cutaways of an Nautilus, and it'll just be about bleak stuff, perhaps a few bits and pieces we haven't had a chance to do much on." And then, of course, he started writing it. The framing thing was always going to be a comic around the dossier material. When he realised it went from 48, 64, 96, and when it was approaching 200, Wildstorm told us to stop. They said, you've got to cap it, the thing was just huge. So when people criticise it as not being, they don't like the story as much as the first 2, as Alan said, it actually is a source book, which is rather kindly written a story to go around, rather than a 3rd volume, which the new one is part of the 3rd volume.
Yes.
But there's lots of clues in the Black Dossier about where it's going in the future, what series.
Exactly.
It's a huge amount of fun to do. But we finished it, and it's all been approved by lawyers a year earlier. But a film producer connected with Alan's earlier work told DC, he saw an advance, he saw a printout of it, and he had a private viewing of this film, we weren't told, and he told DC that if they published it, they'd be put out of business. They would put them out of business, and they'd be sued by everybody. And they got scared, and they were going to publish a book, and Jim Lee...
Because of all the copyrighted characters that are referred to.
Yeah, because there were so many, but we cleared them out, and Alan was very clever. I mean, and they're kind of obvious, but they're not named, and they're not cover featured, and not making a big deal. But what happened in the end was Jim Lee intervened, who was a very charming man, and he he knew how combustible the situation was. Alan wanted to speak to DC, so I was dealing with it. And then Jim wouldn't send me all the changes they wanted made. He said, "No, you'll be so angry, you'll explode."
And protecting you from
So he faxed me a kind of a list. I still exploded.